wellness industry is booming.
It can be so hard to know what's really good for you and what just looks good for marketing.
There is an absence in the traditional medical system that we still aren't addressing.
Help us understand.
The first step is education.
We all do want to live longer.
Hey there, welcome to season 4 of Everything Lifestyle.
If someone says you seem stressed, you should probably take pause. People that are under chronic stress tend to be more irritable.
Okay, fine, maybe it's not the magical fat melter, but what about the lymphatic drainage?
I was 27 when my best friend passed away, and then 29 when my mother passed away. On the outside, people would look and think, wow, she's doing so great, and I was miserable.
This is Everything Lifestyle, your go-to lifestyle news magazine podcast, where the latest in health, wellness, and everyday living comes together with real conversations, practical advice, and stories that matter. Powered by Pattison Media. In this episode, we explore the effects of stress. Do shake plates do anything? Why adding a little bounce in your day is good for you, and tapping into meditation. I'm Linda Freeman. Let's jump in and navigate the world of wellness together. Stress itself is rarely listed as the direct cause of death. It is now recognized as a profound underlying factor. So I really wanted to talk about this because it contributes heavily to leading causes of death in North America that include heart disease, cancer, chronic respiratory disease, and even stroke. So we're starting to see it because the long-term stress effects on our body are not good. Dr. Tasha Behnert, so happy to have you here to talk through this because I do think this is something we so need to talk about because I don't think people think about the effect stress has on our health.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. We don't think of it necessarily as a risk factor in the same way we might think about having excess weight or smoking or eating in an unhealthy way. When we think about cardiovascular health, it's a major risk factor, just like smoking would be. So we do need to take it seriously. When we think about stress, the bad stress is what we need to pay attention to because this is the one that carries the long-term chronic health risks. Stress, 100%, causes heart disease and stroke. It's a risk factor for inflammatory problems. It makes our immune system poor. We're at more risk of infections, cancers. If you have an autoimmune disease, it can flare that. Mental health. The list goes on and on with the impacts from a health standpoint.
We weren't made to manage where we're kind of always in this little bit of stress. Can we talk about those triggers when we are in that bit of stress all the time, how our body reacts to that?
If we look at what's happening in our body, sometimes it's helpful to think about the biology of this. When we perceive something as a stressor, our brain picks that up and it starts making some different hormones that have effects in our body. Cortisol, epinephrine, acetylcholine, that's the one that causes our brain to stay sharp and our muscles to move. But what happens when we have chronic epinephrine or adrenaline, you can think of it, this drive. It would be like having your foot on the gas of your car nonstop.
I think people, especially if someone says to you, oh, you're just so stressed. You're like, I am not stressed. What are you talking about? I'm not stressed. Sometimes I think we just don't want to accept that.
Yeah.
Is there kind of a checklist we can give ourselves to say, okay, is this more than just the normal day-to-day? What could we look for within ourselves?
I think behavioral changes. So that would be mood. Do you feel on average more anxious than you used to? Do you feel more depressed than you used to? Is your personality different? Are you not wanting to engage socially with other people? I think those would be one area. Am I able to do the things that I was? Do I have energy to exercise? Am I moving? Am I eating in the same pattern? We might notice we have some of the effects of adrenaline in our body. So for example, we might find that our gut feels very different. We might have acid reflux. We might feel like we have heartburn when we've never had that before. Diarrhea, or we're constipated. Irritable bowel syndrome, that could be a presentation of stress. How am I focusing? What's my concentration, whether that be at work or At home, do I feel like I'm in this brain fog? Am I able to concentrate? Can I remember anything, right? When we're under high stress, often our short-term memory is pretty poor. And so maybe we're not remembering things in the way we previously would. I think those are things we really need to pay attention to.
That list alone, that's got to be an eye-opener for people to really check in with their health and potentially link it back to something which we might think is as simple as stress. It's remarkable, really.
The consequence is huge. The problem is those are the symptoms, if I will, of stress externally. But if we think internally what's happening to us, stress with those hormones, they are on that inflammatory pathway. So this is a basis that's actually aging our arteries. We're having harm within the big arteries, so that's putting us at risk of heart attack. We're having harm in maybe the smaller arteries that can affect other things. Chronic stress potentially could be a dementia risk. Those things can take years to see that outcome, but we need to pay attention to the symptoms before we have our heart attack. Chronic stress ages us from a cellular standpoint, so we need to be very mindful of that. It affects pretty much every organ in the body, so we want to take it seriously.
So how can people manage chronic stress?
We need to slow down enough to be aware of how our body feels. So that is step one. Having some bit of reflection on how are we feeling? Why are my bowels all over the place? What's happening? We think of the fight or flight hormones. We want to promote the rest and digest ones. We talk a lot in medicine now about mindfulness. Meditation is one thing that's become much more mainstream. And the reason this works is it down regulates that little part of your brain that is the fear and the heightened awareness center. It's going to decrease that area of the brain so we're less likely to perceive everything as frightening around us. The other thing is cognitive reframing. Sometimes people will change the wiring of their brain, if you will. You can do this with a counselor, a psychologist, or there's lots of online resources. Telling yourself, don't be stressed, generally doesn't work. But having a program of pulling your mind away from stressors is very effective. We know that breathing accesses some of that parasympathetic system. So there's lots around deep breathing. Exercise is also a great way of reducing stress. That movement every day can be a very effective method of helping us cope with stressors around us. It's a good outlet for lots of people. And then to remember, we're meant to be social beings. So unfortunately, sometimes when we're really stressed, we withdraw from people. But being in social settings, that helps create those good hormones within us. Making sure you have time with your partner or your family or your friends is a really important buffer against chronic stress. And I think we need to make sure we schedule that time. As a physician, a family doctor, I'm always talking about sleep. Sleep is super important when we think about stress, just for the brain's well-being and the brain's ability to cope with all the things that are coming at it. Sleep is very, very important. Stress is going to be in our environment. It's around us. I think our job isn't to stop stress. That's not an option. We can't buffer ourselves from all stress. We do want some stress. You may want that promotion at work. You're going to have to go through the stressful process of interviewing. But I think it is how we shape this for our body and making sure that we don't have stressors that are ongoing and long-term and unnecessary. We have to empower ourselves to manage it in a way that it doesn't have a physical impact.
I'm really amazed that so much about health is talked about in the news and social media, but stress isn't often one of them. And it's something that we should be talking about, especially now when we're seeing such a rise in mental health issues, because those can so easily be linked to how we're managing chronic stress in our lives.
I definitely agree. And I think we've done a good job of talking about mental health where there's less barriers. We have this framework of how we discuss mental health and what that looks like. If we step back and we have a systematic approach to it, we can have a big impact on reducing our sense of stress, but more importantly, in reducing how that stress affects us. And that is a conversation that we should be having with our friends just to keep tabs on ourselves and our family, but then with our doctor.
I don't know that we always think of going into our doctor to say, I think stress might be affecting me, or I think there's something going on, but I can't quite pinpoint it. Here's some things that I've been experiencing, and really opening up and having a chance to talk to your doctor about it.
I absolutely agree. And I think historically, maybe some of the hesitation, even for myself to ask about stress might have been we weren't quite sure what to do about it. Maybe don't focus on it. It'll go away. We've changed a lot of our approach. We know there's all these different behaviors that we can do. Back in my training, we used to train Western medicine and Eastern, and meditation wasn't mainstream. And now there's lots of data around how this can be helpful and how we can reshape our brain. The amazing thing about our brain is we can remodel it. So although historically our brain was meant to pick out things that were a danger for itself, it might be mistakenly picking out things that are in our daily lives as major concerns. And so it attaches to them. We have the ability to switch that for ourselves and take our focus off some of those things through some of these behaviors, whether it's mindfulness or engagement in psychology or cognitive retraining. This is really exciting. We can make a big difference for how we feel and our health long term, which is really what we want. We want to age well without diabetes, obesity, dementia. So, these things all add up.
Is there anything we've missed? Some takeaways that you can give to people to say, oh yeah, okay, I need to pay maybe a little more attention.
I think the big takeaway is that we don't want to miss stress that could be chronic in our lives. I think there is a sense that any stress is bad, and I think we need to let that go. I think we need to understand that stress is okay. Our bodies were meant to deal with this in the short term, and it is beneficial for us. So that is a good thing. We don't need to stress about stress. But I think the big take home is chronic stress that we feel is having a health impact, whether that's mood, gut health, cognitive changes, that absolutely needs to be addressed because that has implications for our health that are very important, especially when we think about cardiovascular health or immune health. We really need to have enough time to take pause, make sure that we are coping with our stress. Our stress is short-lived. And if we think we have chronic long-term stress, we need to talk to either a healthcare provider or our friends or go online and find a pathway through it because there are some options. So top two things I would say, be mindful, have some mindful exercise daily in your life. And if we can move more, super helpful. And my always mantra, sleep more. We need to sleep.
Exactly. Dr. Bienert, thank you so much. Always a pleasure chatting with you.
Yeah, you as well. Thanks so much.
Coming up, we hear a Being Real story about the importance of self-connection. But first, we dive into a bit of a jumpy topic. It looks like a kid's toy. It's showing up in living rooms and gyms. But behind the bounce is a body of research that goes back to NASA. Life Unlocked dives into why doctors, astronauts, and fitness editors all agree. Rebounding is not a fad. It's physics.
That was an amazing workout, Cheryl. Why is rebounding such a great workout?
Well, it has a lot to do with science, actually. It's the gravity that affects the body on the rebounder. So as you go into your mat, you get captured by gravity. It activates all the cells in the body. Nothing escapes it. Gravity gets everything, and then it releases it. So you're getting all these multiple reps as you're bouncing, 4,000 to 5,000 bounces in a class.
It's officially having a moment. The trend has been picked up everywhere, from fitness studios to major outlets. Even CTV and CBS News profiled a rebounding class, calling it a full workout that's hardly any stress to the joints. The global trampoline fitness market is projected to blow past $4 billion by 2027. Here's the part that most people don't know. The science isn't new. It's from the 1980s, and it came from NASA. Researchers needed a way to help astronauts rebuild bone density and cardiovascular strength after time in zero gravity. What they found was startling. Rebounding was measured as up to 68% more efficient than jogging. Every time your feet hit that mat, your body briefly experiences up to 4 times the force of gravity, then a moment of near weightlessness. That push-pull is the whole mechanism. It's why a short session can rival a much longer run. Fast forward to today, and the research has only expanded. A study out of New Zealand had postmenopausal women rebound 3 times a week for 12 weeks. The result was measurably higher bone density and improved pelvic floor strength. Cleveland Clinic has published findings that regular mini trampoline training can improve seniors' balance and reaction time by more than a third, cutting the risk of falls. And because the mat absorbs so much of the shock, doctors increasingly recommend it for people managing joint pain, arthritis, or coming back from injury, something a treadmill simply can't offer. So why now? Because it checks boxes almost no other workout does at once. Cardio, strength, balance, and joint protection in 10 to 20 minutes in your living room. No commute to a gym, no pavement pounding for your knees. So for a culture stretched thin on time and increasingly wary of high-impact wear and tear, that combination is hard to beat. The takeaway from 4 decades of research is simple. Sometimes the most effective thing you can do for your body isn't complicated. It's just a bounce. Low impact, high return. That's rebounding, and that's the science of fitness. Coming up, we'll hear about a being real story that speaks to finding solitude. With so much out there around wellness products and lifestyle hacks, we thought, why not do a deeper dive? So each episode, producer Kat Cullen and I do just that in a segment we like to call Health Tag.
If your pooch looks like this or your legs look like this, let me show you 5 ways to use this vibration plate. Get into a full squat position and squat down. It's going to feel like you're doing so many sit-ups on this plate.
Vibration plates, yes or no? Get rid of cellulite? Yes. Melt fat? Yes. Assist in weight loss? Yes.
You've probably seen a shake plate with somebody on their feet, but going on hands and knees on a vibration plate can help target your upper lymphatic chain and get things moving.
Okay, Kat, I thought it'd be great to look at the world of these shake plates since they're all over social media with various claims, but what do they really do?
Yes, they are all over TikTok right now. One influencer you just heard swears that standing on it every day drains her thyroid and melts fat. Supposedly, it's amazing for lymphatic drainage.
Draining your thyroid doesn't even happen unless it's a medical procedure. And then there are the claims out there that it actually could replace a workout.
Yeah, one TikToker said she quit the gym entirely once she got one of these things. It's supposed to build muscle tone, speed up weight loss just from the shaking exercise, minus the sweating. And it's not just random people either. Serena Williams and Mark Wahlberg have talked up these things too.
An athlete or a celebrity liking a product isn't the same as a study proving that it actually works.
Okay, but I did do a little bit of homework before I bought it. Thank you very much. A wellness writer I follow mentioned that there was a whole scientific review that found people actually did lose fat using these things. So I'm not completely making it up.
You're half right, actually. There is a 2019 review like that. It pooled 7 separate trials on these vibration plates and weight loss. And people did lose some fat mass overall. You just maybe left out the part where the review or ignored the part that found barely any real change in body fat percentage.
Okay, fine. Maybe I skimmed the headline and skipped the fine print.
Well, a health editor at Mind Body Green actually road tested one daily for 3 weeks and found the same thing, modest reductions in total fat, but nothing that meaningfully moved body fat percentage. So the muscle contracting does burn some calories, but exercise scientists quoted by Time magazine say a brisk walk burns more.
Yeah, but when I do use it, I feel like I'm getting something out of it.
Well, you are. Your muscles really are contracting somewhere between 20 and 60 times a second. And that part's not fake. It's just not the fat melting miracle the algorithm promised you.
Okay, fine. Maybe it's not the magical fat melter, but what about the lymphatic drainage? The internet says it flushes all the toxins, depuffs your face, and even reduces cellulite. And I've seen before and after videos when people's thighs are genuinely looking much smoother. And one influencer said it stopped her kids' tantrums.
A vibrating plate is toddler crowd control. Incredible. Okay, now I looked into the lymphatic side properly because it sounded too good to be true. So a family medicine physician at Northwell Health has said there's very little research on how vibrating can actually drain your lymphatic system. Now, a walk, staying hydrated, or wearing compression socks, even on a long flight, could plausibly do just as much.
So it's basically nothing.
Well, not entirely nothing, actually. That's the kind of annoying part about this topic, because a space physiologist who studies vibration plates has said there is some evidence the shaking helps move fluid out of your legs. Now, scientists just aren't sure yet whether it's draining your lymphatic system specifically or just your veins.
Okay, so my legs might genuinely feel less puffy, but we don't exactly know why.
Pretty much. And for real medical conditions like lymphedema, there's no convincing evidence vibration plates help at all. So definitely don't let anyone convince you it's a substitute for a real treatment.
So I bought a very expensive foot massager?
Not entirely. There are real evidence-backed benefits, just not one that claims drains your thyroid or easy workout or lose lots of weight. Bone health, however, is a big one. A meta-analysis of randomized controlled trials found whole body vibration produced modest gains in bone density, something like 1 to 4% over several months. Now, this was specifically in lumbar spine and hips in postmenopausal women.
Okay, so it's good for my bones.
For that group specifically, yes. And it's part of why physical therapists and rehab clinics actually use these with people who can't do traditional weight-bearing exercise, like older adults or people recovering from injury or even cancer treatment.
Okay, well, I'm not exactly in rehab, but the stronger bones sounds nice regardless. And one influencer swears that it gave her actual visible abs.
Well, visible abs may come from a strict diet and a good core workout, but not likely from standing on a plate for 10 minutes while you're scrolling your phone.
Yeah, that tracks.
There's also solid support for balance. Vibration training shows up a lot in the fall prevention research for older adults, and it's one of the more consistently supported uses alongside general muscle activation and circulation. So there is some good news.
Yeah, and honestly, my muscles do feel warmer after I use it.
Well, that's a real documented effect, Kat. Vibration plates can warm up muscles faster than something like cycling, using less energy to do it, which is why some trainers use them as pre-workout warm-ups, not a replacement for the workout itself.
Okay. It's an addition to my routine, not a substitute for it.
Exactly. But one more thing. This isn't universally risk-free. Orthopedic researchers have flagged the higher intensity vibration may not be safe for people who are unsteady on their feet or have vascular or metabolic conditions. It's also generally not recommended if you have a pacemaker, a history of blood clots, or if you're pregnant.
Noted. I promise I'll consult my doctor before I out-vibe my thyroid or induce anything concerning.
Appreciated. So real device, real if modest benefits for bone density, balance, and muscle warm-up, just not the miracle cure TikTok is trying to sell you.
Fair enough. I'll use it as a warm-up before we go for that brisk walk you keep hinting at.
Now that's a trend I can get behind. Later, we tap into the reason to meditate. We're taught pretty much from childhood that being alone is something to fix, that solitude is loneliness. But maybe not. Research out of Durham University has found that after just 15 minutes alone, people's strong emotions, whether anxiety or excitement, actually start to settle. Time in solitude is linked to feeling less stressed, more peaceful, and more like yourself. And loneliness and solitude aren't the same thing at all. Loneliness is an unmet need for connection, while solitude, chosen and used well, can be one of the most grounding things a person does for themselves. Let's meet Lisa D. She's coached Project Runway participants, mentored emerging designers, with features in major magazines like InStyle and Harper's Bazaar, and helped launch young talent into major retail spaces. In 2016, she founded the Cut Design Academy, offering specialized hands-on training in fashion, graphic design, interior design, and even makeup artistry. But for Dee, as she goes by, she didn't have any of that research mentioned earlier in front of her when she got on a plane to Europe at the age of 29. Freshly grieving, freshly depressed, and completely unsure of what she was doing. She just knew she needed quiet. What she found tracks almost exactly with what the science now confirms. The most healing thing she ever did was learn to sit with herself. With the ups come the downs. This is Dee's story. This is Being Real.
My name is Lisa Dermengen, but I go by Dee just because it's a little bit easier. And I am the owner and the dean of the Cut Design Academy. I was 27 when my best friend passed away, and then 29 when my mother passed away. On the outside, people would look and think, wow, she's doing so great. And I was miserable. After my mom died, I was clinically depressed, and I didn't know what I was doing. So I actually went to Europe for 4 months, and that was the beginning of my self-awareness journey. I learned to enjoy my own company because I got to know myself. And when that happens, you do go through some pretty serious dark spaces until you get to the other side, because we're so conditioned to think that spending time alone is wrong, or people think I'm alone because people don't like me, or that when you take all those things away, it's like, I like me. And then you really come at things in a different light. So I started with a therapist, and I was very lucky because my friend recommended her. And I'll never forget, she practiced out of her house, and she did it in her garden suite. And the garden suite was like walking into your mother's womb. It was so amazing. I loved going there. I had already started taking anti-anxiety medication because I really spiraled. I had a full-on anxiety breakdown where I didn't sleep for 3 nights. And when I say I didn't sleep, I was doing laps around my apartment. And from my own journey and just a lot of my friends' journeys, it's really challenging is the wrong word. It's not challenging your beliefs, but every belief has the opposite belief. So if I believe I'm unworthy, well, in some version, I have to be worthy for the unworthy to exist. So I can honestly say it's probably taken 2 decades between therapy and different types of reading and, again, self-awareness journey to stumble upon that. We really don't put enough attention on how we talk to ourselves, the way you approach something and the way you speak to yourself. Just that slight shift, just changing a little bit inside your brain that can turn that frown upside down, even if it's for a minute. You know, a minute a day turns into 5 hours by the end of the month. And that's a big change. I think that this is true for every single person in the world. The most interesting person you will ever meet is yourself. So take the time to get to know yourself. There's nothing to be scared of for that time alone. Enjoy it, because you are the most interesting person in your life.
Dee's closing line that the most interesting person you'll ever meet is yourself isn't just a nice sentiment to end on. Decades of research show self-talk isn't a sign of instability. It's a normal and crucial part of how we develop, think, and regulate our well-being. And one of the most effective things researchers have found for quieting a harsh inner critic is simply learning to separate that voice from your actual identity, recognizing it as a visitor, not the truth. That's the whole arc of Dee's journey, from a woman doing laps around her apartment for 3 nights straight to someone who can say plainly that she likes her own company, not because the dark spaces disappeared, but because she stopped being afraid of what she'd find there. As she puts it, a minute a day of talking to yourself a bit differently turns into 5 hours by the end of the month. That's not a small shift. That's a different life.
We live in an instant society, and we want results instantly. The fact is that meditation is a cumulative experience. It is something that you benefit from by doing it over and over and over again. And one of the key attitudes that we must bring to meditation is to not look for the results immediately. We must do it only because We believe in it.
It's the paradox at the center of one of the fastest growing wellness practices in the world. Meditation promises calm, but does it demand patience? In a culture built for instant results, that's a hard sell. Meditation apps now make up roughly 96% of the mental health app market, with millions of people reaching for 5 minutes of stillness on their phones every day. And the research backing it has grown just as fast. A review of more than 200 studies found mindfulness-based practice was especially effective at reducing stress, anxiety, and depression. Other trials have linked regular practice to better sleep, lower blood pressure, and sharper attention and cognitive flexibility. But talk to people who've actually built a meditation practice, and they'll tell you the science is only half the story. The other half is showing up, especially on the days it doesn't feel like it's working. According to Claire Maisonneuve, a registered clinical counselor at Alpine Counseling Clinic in Vancouver, it's actually the opposite. It's the mind being witnessed, often for the first time.
Most people, they start and they think, gosh, this is really difficult. This is laborious. This isn't doing anything for me. I feel worse. You're not worse. You're just actually seeing the truth of what's going on inside your mind. And the truth is very painful. We constantly avoid truths in our lives. So I think it's really difficult to sell this concept to people of meditation. And that's why suffering is so good and so important. And I'm not being sarcastic, I'm being serious. It is really only when we have suffered enough that we will look for an alternative.
Researchers have a name for part of what's happening here: interoceptive awareness, the brain's growing ability to notice its own internal state. Neuroscientists at Harvard have found this kind of practice can physically change how the brain responds to stress, reshaping the fear response itself over time, but not overnight.
The most important thing that most traditions will use is something that's going to be with you at all times when you meditate, and that will be the breath. The breath is the most powerful tool to help you stay in the present moment.
That's the technique nearly every tradition circles back to: the breath. It's simple, portable, and always with you. Some people follow breath deep in the belly, others at the chest, and there's no single right way, just a consistent one. And consistency, more than any app or technique, seems to be what separates people who benefit from the people who give up. Maisonneuve compares it to training for the Olympics. You don't get there swimming occasionally. You show up in the pool whether you like it or not.
Ultimately, you have to create a discipline in order for you to be able to train your mind and not need anything or anybody else other than a chair to sit on. The rest you have. You have your body, you have your mind, you have your breath. That's all you need.
No subscription, no equipment, just a body, a breath, and the willingness to sit with what's actually there. For a practice this simple, the hardest part may be believing it's enough. You can find Claire at anxietyandstressrelief.com. Life is challenging, so we're trying to make living well just a little bit easier and less complicated. Join us on the next Everything Lifestyle as we tackle the longevity revolution, metabolic health. I'm Linda Freeman. Let's connect again soon on Everything Lifestyle. You've been listening to Everything Lifestyle, an initiative powered by Pattison Media, designed to inspire and motivate a healthy life. Everything Lifestyle is a Pattison Media and Everything Podcast production. Hosted, produced, and written by me, Linda Freeman. Showrunner and writer, Kat Cullen. Sound engineer, producer, John Massacre. Executive producer, Jennifer Smith. Production support, Eric Chapman. Video producer, Jordan Wong. For more information on this program, go to pattisonmedia.com and everythinglifestyle.ca.
The views, opinions, and advice expressed in this podcast are solely those of the guest and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of Pattison Media or the sponsors of this program.
Another Everything Podcast production. Visit everythingpodcast.com, a division of Pattison Media. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast.